Hi, beady people. This is Teresa Sullivan with another beading episode. This is the second one of the Nailhead videos, and this time I'm going to actually do live beading in front of you. What can I say? First, I will show you again a couple pieces that I've made and one that you haven't seen yet that I've made. So part of this is to illustrate, and literally with beading, just how different nail heads can be from regular beads, especially since they often have two holes. I'm going to do a little share screen here. And I'm going to have to adjust my camera, so you'll have to excuse me while I do that. Doink, doink, doink. Okay, I think I got it. It's even in focus. Check it out. This is a neck piece with a lot of, I'll give you a larger view of it, bit larger view of it. It's a neck piece with a lot of interesting components, not the least of which are these little nailhead beads. Come on, get into focus. I know you want to get in focus. There you go. Now these beads, you can see from this one that's on its side that they're kind of a peaked dome, kind of like a pyramid shape, and the back is flat. They have two holes going through them. You can see if there was only one hole going through, all four of these components would be coming in at the same spot. That makes a difference because if it didn't have two holes and I did this with it, if I netted with it, these beads could spin around and you would see half of the time the underneath side rather than the domed side. So that's a lot of what has to do with the whole two-hole thing. It's a whole two-hole thing, you know. Here's another neck piece, many components again, lots of stuff going on, and these just two nail heads. All it does to evoke, this is inspired by the legend of the goddess She Who Watches and the Columbia River Gorge of the indigenous peoples who live there. There are petroglyphs carved into the rock on each side of this major river in the United States. And the story, of course, is one of those rad trickster coyote things. This trickster figure basically, I don't know how, tricked this goddess into turning into stone. So she's sitting there on the stone now and she's watching over her people for eternity. I'll have to get it going this way so you can see it a little better, but the eyes are somewhat like this. That's what inspired this piece. Now again, that's why I use nailhead beads. Nailhead beads can come in just hundreds of different shapes and sizes and colors, including these. I think they refer to this shape as a navet in the rhinestone world. Sorry about the camera adjustment. I swear I'm not making it do that consciously anyway. And that's why you can have such, if you have a good collection of nailheads, you have a huge diversity of materials. I'll show you yet more examples of exciting nailheads on these Corel livingware plates from the 70s that I found at a thrift store. Or was it a garage sale? I don't know. These are, remember in the last video, I was talking about the Victorian era and how Queen Victoria liked to wear black because she was in mourning, and a lot of people imitated her, whether or not they were in mourning, and there was a lot of black being worn, and a lot of black beads being worn. Well, there's also something in England at the time known as Whitby jet. I'll try to get this better adjusted for you so you can see it a little bit better. But Whitby jet was from essentially, there's a manufacturing town called Whitby, Whitby, in England, that had craftsmen carving this material known as jet. And jet is kind of like a half-grown diamond. It's halfway between coal and a diamond, to put it really crudely. And it's black, and it's carvable, and it's gorgeous. Now, these are not Whitby jet. These are glass. These are, what do you call it? Pressed glass beads. And nailheads, are included in the universe of pressed glass beads. If you took, I could start this out as a joke, such as a sewing machine and what was it? A sewing machine and a typewriter walk into a bar. Or I could just say it could be the unholy marriage of a sewing machine and a typewriter. To make pressed glass beads, what you do is you feed the semi-molten glass into this machine that has a bottom half and a top half, just stomping that glass with the shape of the bead that it needs to be in reverse. Or if the beads are convex, the stamping machine is concave. Now, basically, you can have regular round seed bead, not seed beads, but regular round faceted beads that are pressed glass. You can also have jet black nailhead beads, or any color nailhead beads. Try to get that, get you to be able to see that wonderful faceting on top. And it's a subset of pressed glass, because the only difference between pressed glass buttons and beads and nailheads is that the one side of the nailhead is generally flat or not convex. This one, I think I showed this one to you last time, is actually concave, but it's just so heavy. Because it was made to be sewn into clothing, they wanted to be minimizing the weight of these beads if they could, even if they wanted them big. So they want them both ways. You got to carve out the back. You got to make sure the back is not taken up unnecessary material that adds unnecessary weight to it. But the part about the nailhead beads, and the reason, come on, focus sesame, baby. Here we go. The reason the back is flat on these nailhead beads is that most of them were made to be used in clothing and hats, women's hats, millinery. So the back, one side needed to be flat. I don't use them that way. You can. I invite you to. It's fun. It's pretty. It looks cool. But yeah, this is a choker that I made, and this is, kind of goth as you want to be, right? The back is flat, the front is faceted. And again, I poured out these other ones, other examples of these beads that I have, just to show you how just shapes and sizes galore. There used to be this guy, wonderful guy named Ben Eagle, who's still around, I'm sure, who at the Tucson Gem Show had just a huge batch of tables with old school lunch trays from the 60s and melamine school trays, just filled with just bunches of these glass, all nailhead beads, and multiple sizes, multiple shapes, multiple colors. I encourage you to work with them if you do beading, and I encourage you to, if you have old Aunt so-and-so's hat that is rotting, it's made of silk, but rotting or coming apart or whatever. And it's got these beads on it, don't throw it away. Take the beads off first if you must throw it away, right? So what I should do is bead a little with them. I will, hang on just a sec. Okay, put those away. I'll show you exactly why it matters whether they have two holes or not. And this is a wonderful, another example of a wonderful nailhead. It's got two holes in it going all the way. A hole is something that goes all the way through in bead talk. If it's not, it's a half drilled if it doesn't go all the way through, because there are things, again, in the millinery trade and so on, that are half drilled, or the jewelry trade, but are half drilled. And it's a hole that doesn't go all the way through, I guess. But I generally deal with holes that go all the way through. What can I say? What I'll do is I will show you graphically. Let's see. This is why I like working with these white ceramic, basically not too patterny ceramic plate or glass plate, because I can just get flow the beads onto the needle without having them come apart, or having the needle stuck onto the plate. Now what I'll do, let's see, what am I doing? Oh yeah. What I'm doing is not counting. Let's see here. I work with a variety of sizes. I don't want to have to only work with certain sizes. So I got into the habit early on, thanks to my teacher and mentor, Joyce Scott, of working improvisationally. And what that means is not going, okay, I have to go to the bead store, I have to go get exactly this size, or my whole head's going to explode and the planet's going to, like, fall off out of its orbit in the universe and everything will go awry. No, I like to just work with what I have. Because sometimes what I have, and I'll just let you in on what might turn into the next thing I will talk about on one of these bead videos, is found objects. All these things have holes in them, or holes that can be created. I don't know if I'm going to include this pair of glasses in it, but hey, the color goes. This has a hole. Yes, I did find it in the street. Yes, I am one of those people that finds odd bits of metal and things and does things with them. So, these do not have patterns. these do not come with instructions. I love instructions. They do wonderful things for wonderful people in wonderful places and wonderful ways. But I don't want to only do things that require instructions. So, and sometimes that means improvisation. That means being able to work with funky found materials. And it kind of adds to the fun. There's a random aspect to it that is a bit, can be admittedly challenging, but hey, why not? What I'll do is I went halfway around. I'm going to tie a knot because it's going around in a circle, and I want to make sure that knot doesn't go around the bead. There we go. And let's see here. Once I do that, I'll continue beading. Now, after a couple rows, I'll show you the trouble you can get in with single hold beads, and use black and white together with this, because that way you can see, well, you might be able to see the progression of the stitches. That's the best way to put it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of sizing it up. What I want you to notice is the white beads are just a tiny bit thicker or wider than the black beads. So if I had a pattern, I'd have to find two colors of beads that are the exact same size. Do I want to do that? Not today. So I think what I'm doing is I'm just sizing it up. And I think I actually put about the right amount on. If I put not enough on, it'll kind of like, it won't make it fully around and it won't lay flat. Maybe I don't want to lay flat. That's okay. Yeah, I think I can. Let's see. Should I fit another bead on there? Why not? It's not going to kill me if it's one too many. And what I'll do is, just to reinforce the strength of the connection to the nail head, I'm going to go back through. I could have gone through the white beads when I was done with that, but that's all right. Come on, baby. What I want to do, here we go. Okay, that's the tricky part about working with doubled thread. That's why a lot of people don't like working with doubled thread, but it's stronger. So I pay the price. What can I say? So what I'll do is, yeah, I'll go back into the white beads and continue. Sorry about the out of focus bit. Come on, focus sesame, baby. There you go. See, that's all I had to do is say focus sesame. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll just I'm working improvisationally here because it's fun, and because I can, and because it's really just for demonstration purposes. But I just want you to see. So I'm adding focus sesame. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Camera. I just want you to see the progression. And so I'll switch back to white. I'm only going to do a couple rows because you'll see pretty dang soon that there's going to be a bit loosey-goosey. We're going to encounter the problem I was talking about that you encounter when thinking that you're working on a flat surface. You're not really doing a flat piece. It's suspended in midair, so to speak, because it's not being sewn to a cloth surface as it would with clothing or millinery. So, such as, sculptural pieces or neck pieces, those can be, well, they don't have a cloth backing. I mean, you can lay them down, you can make them flat, but they exist independently in space, let's say. So what I'll do is I'll finish this row and then I'll show you. Let's see here. What's going on? And for beaders, notice that I'm keeping my thread tension by holding that thread this way, holding the thread this way. You'll see keeping an iron grip on it. tightening it as I go, and then tucking the working end of the going away end of the thread between my fingers. So between each stitch. So what I'll do is I'm going to do that. This, for you beaters out there, this would ostensibly be my step up spot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go, no, I'm not going to do a step up anymore. I don't like step ups. So let's skip it. I'll go around one more half of the piece, and then I'll show you what happens when you use 2-hole beads, or excuse me, when you don't use 2-hole beads. Dunk, dunk, dunk. This is why, also just as an aside, why when I first put my black beads, seed beads on, I thought, oh, that might be a little too many, and it's kind of loosey-goosey. But because the beads, the subsequent rows stack on top of those beads, it's just as well that I did. So that's something to keep in mind when beading around a nail head. Let's see here. Where is this going? Okay, I'm just reorienting myself. Okay, let's see. This doesn't have a pattern. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just kind of getting around the piece this way. Let's see. What I will do, sometimes I just decide that a bead is going to be the up or down bead, whether it is or not. You do have a little leeway in this, you know. Okay. So I went around a couple times. You can see that I've got multiple rows here. The design element now to keep in mind is that this can flip around. So if you have a piece where one side is supposed to be the top and one side is supposed to be the bottom, the single hole nail head is not going to adhere to that. It's going to reserve the right to move around or even sit sideways. There are ways to remedy that. If your design allows you, you can, let's see, what I'll do is you can do something like this, where let's see here. I'm going to go back down and then just do a small line of beads across. So that's going to stop it in its tracks when it's trying to flip over. So that's the beauty of two-hole nailhead beads. If you want to prevent that, you can use 2-hole nailhead beads instead of single-hole. But if you absolutely have to have that color, shape, and size, and you don't have 2 holes, this is something that you can do behind the piece. Let's see here, how many, this is what I do, sizing up as I go. It's like, okay, how many beads do I put on? I'm not using instructions, so what do? I just put on some beads, mock it up, see how far it gets me. It's not getting me far enough. I'm gonna have to put at least 2 more on. So boom and boom. Now let's see what it's gonna look like if and this doesn't have to be super scientific. It just has to work. Where the rubber meets the road, it has to go down the road. Where does the rubber meet the road? Well, yeah, I can see this is going to, why don't I put one less bead on there? I have one more bead on than I need. So I'll take a bead off and size it up again. And I want to go across because I want this little guy to not easily turn over. It can be turned over, but it's going to be a lot harder for it to turn over. And I just end up putting the needle through across the way on the back of it, what is now the back. This is definitely the back now. Plus your design you have to realize that your design is not going to be 100% flat anymore. So if that's allowable, then you have that as an option to make it so that it's not, if not impossible, it's still possible, but it's a lot harder for that bead to just spin around in its place. So yeah, you can bead around it. You can use 2-hole beads. Why don't I just do a little bit of beading around a 2-hole bead for a minute? Let's see. Yeah, I'll just do a little bit of that. And why don't I start with the bead itself? And these are small. I don't know if I'm using. I'll just go for black. The logistics are going to be different because there are 2 holes to go through, but that's all right. Let's see here. So many beads it's going to take me to get across. More than that. If you need to not just shovel the beads on, you can still do that too with a hard surface plate. Let's see here. Oh, that's a little too many. So why don't I? That's not too many. Okay. I'm going to simply I'll take one off. And again, this is allowing for extra room for the fact that the following row is going to stack on top of it and push every bead I go through on the following row of this row, it's going to be pushed in toward this nailhead bead. And oh, come on, baby. So I still think I have a little more than I need, but I'm gonna err on the side of caution and still make it a little wiggly. Now what I can do, so see how there's a little bit of airspace in there. That's fine. I don't mind that. I'm going to go through these beads again and then tie a knot to secure it. Focus, sesame. There it goes. And let's see. Okay. I'm going to get this as tight as I can. Let's see. Oh, come on, baby. Tight, tight, tight. There we go. Okay. I'm not, and then I can proceed. I can just keep going with the beading. Now, okay, now what I need to keep in mind is that there's another hole to go through, so I'll just do a few beads to take me to the next hole, not to the opposite side, because there's a hole I want to take advantage of first. I want to encounter the beauty of this hole. What can I say? And on this one, let's see. I think I can get away with 3 instead of 4. These other beads are wider. So yeah, why don't I do that? Focus, sesame. Come on, baby, focus. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Camera. And no, I do not have to do the exact same number of beads on this side as I did on the other side to make it to the next row. Why don't I see? I think I'll see what version of this I like best. Or let's see. Yeah. What I could do is just go through the other hole or the nail head. I could go either through all the black beads again or just the hole in the nail head. Either is fine. But why don't I complete the circuit and go the rest of the way around? So, and yeah, I made another version of this video that suddenly I couldn't use because my computer suddenly shut off. And I don't know if I mentioned it already or in the last video attempt, but the other thing about improvising and working with what you have is that if these beads are not the same size, even though they're both Japanese seed beads and they're both ostensibly the same size 11, right? They're still not the same size. One is probably about 16 beads per inch. The other is probably about 18 beads per inch. And, you know, like the old cliche says, size matters. So size matters if in different ways. If you're using this type of medium improvisationally, then you're not beholden to having certain rigidly construed things at certain times, you know, for certain projects. You can work with what you have. In other words, I heard of somebody who for years made wonderful loom work with a certain type of cylinder bead. And then the manufacturers came out with a more accurately sized version of the same type of cylinder bead, and he got rid of the many thousands of dollars of inventory for materials and bought all the new ones because it did make that much difference in size, and even we're talking micromillimeters in some cases. But for what he was that made sense for him, and the type of work he did. With me, I like to use found materials and odd things that might be one-off or not, not currently in production. And I want to have the freedom to use whatever I want to use, essentially. So having the ability to mix 2 slightly different sizes of seed beads in the same piece is the price that I'll be glad to pay for being able to use what I want to use, to put it nicely. Now, again, I don't want to take too much more of your time because I know I like to keep these videos relatively safe and sane. Well, safe and sane as a relative term, of course, I realize, but I'll tell you, remember the last one until the last piece I made, until I made that little bridge across the back of it, that could just spin around. This one can't spin around because it's anchored at 2 points, not 1. So that's basically the biggest difference. The other thing, and I'll probably show this in a different video, is that with these 2-hole beads, with the way you work with them for netting, is you have one path thread going through this way, and then you go to the end of the row, and then you come back going the other way. And when you do that, you have to go through a different hole, not the same hole. So what that means is will be discussed in the next video, but I'll show you real quick. With the single hole beads, you're going through one way. You're going through, passing the thread one direction one way. Focus sesame. Thank you. And then when you come back, you pass the thread through the other way, and it's going through the same hole. So you get to do, it's a little bit easier basically to make a long story short. So look at the mess I made. What do you think, guys? I'll carve out the beads I didn't use and the beads I beaded. Make a little oasis of relative normalcy for you. And I'll let you look at those. Here we go. So basically, there's just, all I'm saying is there's a world of difference between a single hole nailhead bead and a 2-hole nailhead bead. And they both have their virtues, and they're both very fun. And I hope you've had fun as well. I sure did. See you next time. Bye. Oh, now I'm trying to figure out how to end this thing. Here we go. Okay. Oh, that means I have to stop the share. And then I can say officially goodbye after I take my goofy glasses off. All right. Take it easy. Happy beading.